Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you to our sponsors at Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company, alphaclaimsandhire.com, YoungDizz. I don't think anyone's forgot about him just yet. He's also known as Prince of the Sixth and also Lucifer. I covered him in the war in Newham. This was covered by several newspapers in all the attacks that was connected between the Newham gangs. And it seems that he felt like he needed to explain some stuff to the fans. I don't know when this song was recorded. It may have been before he went to prison. For legal reasons, we're going to assume it was. He was jailed earlier this year for his involvement in the torture of a 16-year-old boy. He got 12.5 years. His real name is Isaac Donko. They said a Sky News article on him that he was a drill music artist from Newham, East London. He was sentenced on Friday at Snaresbrook Crown Court with his accomplices who were 16 and two 14-year-old boys. All 5 of them pleaded guilty to kidnap, false imprisonment, GBH and a number of other offences. YoungDizz enlisted the help of the 16-year-old defendants who knew the victim, and on the 2nd of August the teenager made contact with him and suggested they meet in Barking. The victim turned up as agreed, and Donker and 4 other youths pulled up in a dark blue Ford Mondeo. He punched the kid in the head that this other kid had set up, threatened him with a machete, and they had 2 plastic bags. They put them over his head and secured it with an elastic band. The victim told the court he thought they was going to kill me. He was driven to the home of one of the younger defendants, where he was held for around 2 hours and subjected to a violent and humiliating ordeal. He was forced allegedly to strip naked by Dizz, filmed it, threatened to chop him up. He was hit in the face with a metal pole, in the back, legs and arms, and his hair was cut off as well. Dizz attempted to pour boiling water over the victim's head, and he was forced to swallow a cannabis joint and was also threatened with scissors as well. Parents were allegedly called, and he was forced to beg for £1,500 to secure his release. And then, due to the fact of one of the kids was caught with the phone that they stole from the victim, and the police connected it via that and the video footage, etc, etc. So that was the case. That was a recap of the case that YoungDizz was on. And now in this new song called 12.5, named after the amount of time that he got for the case, he discusses the ins and outs of it and also tries to defend himself in certain places. There's a few interesting things that I'd like to talk about from it. So initially you've got the intro. The intro is a Scarface, where Scarface is being looked at and frowned upon by people in the establishment, and he kind of has a big rant where he's kind of drunk and he explains that you need bad guys like me, sort of explaining the whole YoungDizz thing, that he's seen as the bad guy due to the fact of torturing this teenage boy in this situation.
So you can point your fucking fingers.
So that's how the song starts, with that intro. So that kind of sets the scene for it. And then he goes on to talk about the security risk, him and Twin H, not being able to be on the same wing together due to that factor. Twin H was jailed this year also. He was jailed with rapper Slouie K. There was found in possession of several firearms, a shotgun and also a handgun, baseball bat and machete in a car. They were sentenced to 13 years each, and also a 16-year-old boy who they believed to be a lookout, while Twin H was collecting some firearms from a car that they had parked in the area. They also found like walkie-talkies and all sorts of technology associated to gang activity that the police would allege. So that's the first sort of 2 bars. Automatically he's talking about Twin and that case as well. He goes into that case and explains about the firearms, etc. He also mentions his other case where he was up on 3 firearm charges previously, and he delves into the fact that he spoke openly with somebody else about beef and new straps as well.
I bust 3 firearms, I laughed, the prosecution looked shattered, but the judge still gave my 12.5 in the cannon.
Also, that was one of the reasons I think the case initially they was held on, that the first case that Dizz beat just before this one. And then after that he goes on to say the victim lied in court, so some of the stuff he insinuates didn't happen. So we'll find on a bit later on in the actual song as to what stuff that he claims didn't happen, because he admits to certain things a bit later on. One of the biggest things that I want to speak about is the fact that he said they played his music in court.
I'm in court, now the jury thinks I'm sick. They said bad character, played my bids in court and said I'm the prince of the six.
This is very interesting because it's a new precedent. They haven't always been playing music in court. They started it in America. They've done it in several different cases in America. Recently, they did Take's case where they got him 56 years by playing his music in court where he talks about crimes. In YoungDizz's case, he says that they reference him being the prince of the sixth, which symbolises that he's a high-ranking gang member in that area. And being as YoungDizz speaks about this sort of stuff in his music, they played that sort of stuff in court and referenced it as bad character. I've seen it very few times in the UK. One of the cases that I did and I have covered previously was Lynch from Birmingham. He was jailed for 27 years, which was later reduced to 20, for his involvement in a gang war the police alleged that occurred in 2016 across Birmingham, where 8 people were shot. They used some of Lynch's music videos where he spoke about certain shootings to actually get him a longer sentence in court. So this is a new thing, so people need to need to bear that in mind when they're making music, is that this can now be used in a court of law against you. And that's what YoungDizz stresses, is that a lot of this case was about his character and about stuff that made him look bad, even though the evidence may have not been there. Another thing that he specified in the song is the £1,500. Apparently the defendant was told to ring his parents and ask for £1,500 to secure his release. YoungDizz stresses that he definitely didn't do that. He says it several times in the song, like he wouldn't risk it all for £1,500. So maybe the amount was more, maybe it was a bit different, but he does speak on that a little bit further on. In the final part of the song where he starts to talk about the younger running off with the pack and getting set up, that connects to what the actual police version of events was, is that the young boy was set up by 2 16-year-olds. So YoungDizz does admit that this young kid ran off with a pack. When he's talking about a pack, he's talking about a large amount of drugs. So maybe it wasn't a small amount of drugs, maybe it wasn't even 1,500, maybe it was more, because at the end of the day, this has got to be a message to young children to avoid getting involved in this sort of stuff, because if something happens to that pack that you're given, if you get robbed, if you try and run off with the pack, then you will have to deal with the consequences. And I've seen it in other cases, like the recent case I did with G from Enfield. That was exactly that case. The guy had ran off with his line. He took drugs from him and interrupted his line. And of course, with street credibility, the way that if somebody takes the piss out of you and you let someone get away with it, everyone's going to do it. So if you are 16 years old, it doesn't matter how old you are, you will still get consequences on the road for them sort of actions and decisions. And of course, I don't agree with it. I never condoned it. I openly have spoken about how I don't believe that YoungDizz has made the best decisions and also gone about things in the right way. But at the same time, I tell all sides of the story. So I've told the first side of the story from the police, and now I'm telling his side of the story. So whether that you agree with or you don't agree with, that's up to you completely. We all have our own opinions and everybody's entitled to that. One thing that I would note, it was originally on YoungDizz's own YouTube channel, and it still is on there. It's got about 20k views, but Link Up TV has then snapped it up, so they must have seen an opportunity with this song. The recording quality is not the best, but the song obviously does have an appeal. With YoungDizz's case still being fresh in people's minds, yeah, it's now on Link Up TV. I'd love to hear what people have to say on this, so please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Drop a comment, make sure you share it. It tells YouTube that you support the channel. And go and follow our sponsors at Alpha Claims and Hire, Birmingham's best accident management company. Thank you.